Hey, this is Ralph, and in this video I want to finish working up on this phase of our assignment where we're constructing the mobile navs for these little mock phones here. Now we've got the hard part done because we did this first phone, so we have a master button here which kind of controls that one. Ultimately this master button is going to control all three phones at the same time. So clearly the user is presented with the hamburger icon. When they click the button, the hamburger icon changes to an X using a background position, I believe, and the menu slides in from the left. So I'm going to do something similar for these other phones. I figure this one will have the menu slide down from the top, which is pretty popular, I think, on some of those examples we looked at a couple videos ago. And on this other phone here, we'll do a combination. We'll have like the main menu drop down, but the menu items, the list items, slide in from the left. So a little combo action there. Well, since we've got the hard part taken care of, let's jump over to the HTML and make sure the other phones are prepped and ready. So, as you can see on my phone frame 1, phone frame itself, the button has an ID which represents button 1. I'm going to go ahead and do that as well for phones 2 and 3. And there's also an ID on the nav, mobile nav 1. So I need an ID for button and an ID for the actual nav. And I'll just head down here, and this is my phone frame 2. ID equals button 2, and for the nav itself, ID equals mobile nav 2. Let's take care of number 3. ID equals button 3, and the nav itself, ID equals mobile nav 3. Okay, I think that's pretty good. And that's really the only structural difference between the HTML of those three phones. Oh, that's true. Let's do this too. Since the phones are going to start with a menu in a closed state, the button text will read as open. I think we'll just leave button text on those others since the first one had an example of using a background image for the hamburger icon. Okay. I think that's pretty good. We'll find out soon enough, I guess. Now let me scroll on down to the to the JavaScript. Remember, the JavaScript is in the lower part of the body of my page, right before the closing body tag. And we've got all the hard stuff taken care of, but I want this same event, the event being the clicking of the master button, I want that to trigger all of my phones. So I'm going to select this chunk of script that focuses on phone 1, phone frame 1. I'm going to copy that, paste, and then I'm just going to alter these second two so that they're 2s and 3s. That's kind of boring, so I'll pause my recorder for a moment. I was in the middle of that, just changing all the 1s to 2s, but I realized we are going to change this button 2 text too. So this is going to be button 2 dot inner HTML is going to be reassigned. And let's see, it starts off as open, but when the menu is open, this button text is going to read close. And button 2 inner HTML is going to read open when the menu is closed. And obviously if we get those mixed up, it's easy enough to redo. So I'm going to do that, and then since I've made the changes there, I think all the 1s are 2s on this one. Looks pretty good. Let me just go ahead and copy that one, and I'm going to paste it right there, and then this is going to be my phone frame 3, and then I'm just going to change all these 2s out to 3s. Looks good. And there we go. All right, I think we're in pretty good shape. Now we can't really test this out yet because we haven't modified what the closed state or the open states are going to be for these phones 2 and phones 3. So I think we're pretty good on the HTML side of things. You can go and pause it there if you need to check that out. And notice this is all contained within this one anonymous function, which is going to be triggered on the click event. Okay, so I think we're good with the HTML. Let's do something that we can see. Now, if you might recall at the end of one of the first videos, I did a display none on phones 2 and 3, so that way we wouldn't be distracted while working on phone 1. Well, I'm ready to be distracted, so let's head back over to the CSS, and let's see, I'm going to scroll down to the markup for my phone 2, and I'm just going to get rid of that display none declaration, and I'll get rid of the display none declaration for phone frame 3. Save that, head back over, and now you can see those menus showing up. Don't be put off that we can see them because we still have to control the states. Let's look at phone number 2. So on phone 2, I'm going to, oops, in the wrong spot there. Let's see, right here. New rule, phone frame 2. Let me zoom in a bit on that one. And then a descendant of a dot mobile menu. And we could do something like background color pink. And that should be enough to see that sure enough, there is that phone, phone number 2. Cool. Okay, so let's start playing around with this. The mobile menu can have 2 states, recall. It can be open or closed. Phone frame 2 dot open. Now when the menu is open, let's see, we're going to have a position, spelling that, yep, absolute, and I'm going to go top 60 pixels, left 0 pixels. Now where am I getting those numbers from? If you recall, my menu or my header up there is 60 pixels tall, and I just recall that from the previous phone because all of them are the same header. Now you'll notice as soon as I do that position, my mobile menu here gets shrinks up on itself, and it's really just being held up by the text inside of it. So in addition to this, I'm also going to set the width to 100%, which will allow it to expand out and fill. Great. So that's going to be the opened state. Now I'm going to copy that. And now for the mobile menu closed, let's see, I want this menu to go upward, so I'm going to take it and go negative 500 pixels. And the width is fine, the left is fine, and stuff like that. So now we'll be able to test this out, and hopefully, if I click on my menu over here, or my master button, okay, we can start to see something happening. But look at this. It's acting a little bit funky over here. Don't worry about that first phone. I'm looking at my phone number 2 and seeing what's going on. Sure enough, I'm pushing it down. I need to push that phone or that menu upward, so I need negative 500 pixels. Refresh, test it out. I can still see a little bit of pink there, so let's go ahead and make this nice and exaggerated. 600 pixels, something like that. Now there are other numbers we could play around with, by the way, to hide this. We could use viewport heights, that could be interesting, or we could even use percentages there. But in order to adjust this and play around with it, I think it'll help if we can see that transition. So let me go to my mobile menu rule for phone 2, and I'm going to put a transition on the top. And let's see, let's do this over 0.8s for 0.8 seconds, and I'm going to do an ease in out. This is going to make it a little bit easier to visualize this transition that's going on. There we go, and we can also notice something that I want to resolve. Notice how my menu is animating over my header. Well, we don't want that to happen, so let's run back to the CSS, and I believe the header is controlled for all phones equally. So I'm scrolling up here, and here's that header. There's the background color and the height. I'm also going to put a Z index, and I'm just going to pick a big number here of 10 to ensure that that header is on top of everything. And that should be enough to see that now that nav, that pink navigation, is sliding behind the header. And everything looks like it's working as it should. Let's start off here. Now you can see that even though I'm starting my page, my menu is displayed, and it shouldn't be. So I need to resolve that. So I'm going to head back over to the HTML real quick, and I'm going to make sure that my nav menu 2 does not start in an open state. Instead, I want it to start in a closed state. So I'm going to change the class to closed, and while I'm here, I can do that for my phone frame 3, closed. I want those to start in a closed state. Don't worry about phone 3 yet. I'm looking at 1, but specifically 2. All right, the menus are prompting me to open the menu. The buttons are prompting me to open the menu. And there we go. So now we're getting that nav menu to slide down. All right, that looks like it's working pretty well. I think I'm satisfied with that. Let's play around with phone number 3, and we're going to do kind of like a combination of things where the main menu slides down, but all the list items slide in from the side. So let's see what we can do with that. I think the HTML is pretty good, so I just need to jump over to the CSS. And let's see, I'm going to scroll on down. Here are my stylings for phone frame 2. And let's see, I think I'm going to copy a bunch of stuff. Mobile menu, open and closed. I'm going to copy that. Paste, and then I just need to change these out to phone 3s. And let's see what we've got going on here. Just to make sure we're clear that we're working on something different, I'm going to change that out to sky blue, the mobile menu. I'm going to get rid of these transitions for a moment, because I don't want us to just accept those as they are, because we are going to alter them a little bit here. Let's see, for the open state, the menu is going to be positioned there, and I think we are changing the height of that. That's good, because remember, this closed and this open is applying to the navigation itself, not the list item. So I think I'm pretty content with that. And let's go ahead and see how that's looking. Okay, I'm focusing my attention on this third menu, hit my master button. Okay, it's popping right in. That's what it should look like. Now, I can't scroll on here, but of course on a real phone, we would be able to scroll up and down to see the rest of that menu. Okay, so that thing is popping in the way I want, but let's put that transition back in. My mobile menu is what's going to transition downward. So I can put a transition, and let's see, let's transition just the top for 0.7 seconds, ease in, out. So the mobile menu is going to transition down, or sliding back up. But I don't want the list items to transition that way. I want those list items to move too. So I'm going to make a rule here. Phone frame 3 open list items. Actually, I'm not going to use position. Let's use something a little different here. The list items within my open menu. I'm going to do a transform translate X, and I think I can just put 0 pixels on there. All right, which means that's going to be their default state. By the way, translate X will control the left-right movement of these list items. But for closed, phone frame 3 closed list items, those are going to be transform translate X negative 500 pixels. Okay, I think that could get us something interesting. Let's see what happens at this point. Well, it's hard to tell. Well, we can see something happening, when I move away. But let's see if we put some transitions, if we can really control these. Now, these are going to be my list items. So I'm going to start off here. Phone frame 3, list items. Transition, and now we're changing the transform, and let's do this over 0.7 seconds, ease in, out. All right, now we can start to see something happening here, but let's play around with this a little bit here. In addition to transitioning those list items, I'm going to put a slight delay on them. I'm going to put a delay of 0.7 seconds. So basically the menu is going to slide down. It's going to take 0.7 seconds to do so. Then the list items are going to slide in, and they're going to take 0.7 seconds to do so. But this fourth value for my for my transition is going to be the delay. So we should see the menu slide down, and then the list items slide in. And when I close this menu, they all slide back up together. I'm actually pretty happy with that. Because we're putting this transition on the list items themselves, what we're seeing happen is the whole menu is sliding up, taking the list items with them. So I'm actually okay with that, and that's would be, I think, better than if we tried to put an additional transition on the mobile menu itself. So what does that leave us here? Well, we have some mock phones where navigation menus are controlled by little JavaScript in order to change the value of an attribute, particularly a class. So once we've got these skills down, you can build up on this and make yourself a mobile navigation menu for an actual web page. Don't just do a mock one like this, do a real one. And this is going to require some media queries too. So if somebody's looking at the phone, at the web page in a desktop, they're getting one display of the nav menu. But if they're looking at a narrow device, a mobile device, tablet or phone, they're getting a different style. And of course, this is all going to be pretty easy because we're just controlling the class of this. And even though I don't have media queries on my CSS, it's certainly easy enough to add those. So have at it. And once again, let me just show you the JavaScript. That's probably one of the trickier parts. Let me minimize a bit so you can see multiple things here. And we're using one script to control 3 phones, but the script itself should be very, very similar to this one. And it doesn't matter if you're changing the icon of the button by changing a background position or changing the text or simply changing the class of a button. You could do that too, change the class of a button so that it's getting restyled in a much more dramatic way. So have fun with this and then continue developing your own mobile navigation menus. Take care.